Welcome to Unfiltered and Unstoppable with Rob Romesburg. Real strategies for real advisors, a podcast that dives into what it takes to scale a thriving financial practice. Each week, we'll discuss actionable strategies, tools, and insights to keep you ahead in today's financial landscape. From innovative products and powerful marketing tactics, you'll get unfiltered truth and unstoppable strategies. Let's get started by building your unstoppable financial practice today.
All right. Welcome to Unfiltered and Unstoppable, where we introduce real strategies for real advisors. If you are new here, this is the podcast where it's all about cutting through the industry noise. Each week, I bring on new guests, impactful advisors, coaches, thought leaders. And the whole focus is to make sure we're sharing strategies that you can actually use. No theory, no fluff, real world actionable items that really move the needle in your practice. I am Rob Romesburg. I am a consultant and a coach to independent financial advisors throughout the country. This is my passion and this is my mission, helping advisors to scale, systemize, but more importantly, without burning out. 'Cause it's one thing to grow, but it's a whole nother thing if you're growing and you're just sick of it all, right? And today I'm really fired up for this conversation because we're going to be talking about one of the most powerful yet underutilized strategies out there: surge meetings. And to help us unpack it here today, I'm joined by someone who I believe has surge down to a science, and that's Miss Nikki Foley. Welcome today, Nikki.
Thanks
And
for having me, Rob.
totally my pleasure. Nikki wears two big hats. She's the our advisor liaison officer here at Gradient with our tactical coaching teams. And she's also co-owner of Paladin Financial, where she runs her firm alongside her husband Jeff, and they currently lead, I believe, over 10 professionals right now. And here's why I believe Nikki is the perfect guest for this topic. She's not just teaching Surge; she's quite literally, living it. And she has proven this system time and time again that when you categorize clients, when you structure your calendar, and when you protect your energy, that's something I want to talk about a lot today as well. Protecting your energy with Surge, you don't just get more efficient. You create more consistency, not just for your firm, but for your clients as well, for your team, more revenue opportunities for your firm. In fact, and we'll touch more on this later on, her firm has generated millions of dollars in new business within just 60 days after completing a surge cycle, which we'll talk a little bit more about here. So, once again, this is not theory. This is all tested, more importantly, a repeatable model for you. So, today we're going to break down what surge is, why it works, how to implement it step by step, and the results that you can realistically expect when it's a part of your business. So whether you're solo or you lead a full team of 10, this is definitely a conversation you want to take notes on. Once again, Nikki, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing today?
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Rob and I have known each other for over 20 years now, which seems absolutely incredible to say that. But the fun part is to see what Rob is doing and the information that he is providing to all of us out in the field and making it available when we need it. I think that's such a nice thing and the power of podcasts that when I'm ready, when I need it, Rob is delivering. So thank you, Rob, in return for being a resource for us. We certainly appreciate it.
That's so awesome. You've actually known my wife for longer than that.
Oh my gosh, I don't even wanna say this. So I have known Rob's wife since 5th grade. We used to play basketball against each other, and she is one fierce competitor, and so, that's the best thing. I love it when I see Jess and that we can have a little bit of reminiscing there.
Yeah, it's so awesome, especially with our daughter Henley now. She's a senior, which is wild. But when I see Henley on the basketball court, it is my wife. I mean, it's Jessica. Like, she'll make a move, she'll make a play, and I'm just like, that's Jessica. Like, it blows my mind when I see it. But
I just saw her senior pictures and she had, some of the sports ones, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, Jessica Bringle right
yeah,
there."
100%. That's exactly right.
So good.
Well, let's dive in here. So, tell us, how did you first discover Surge, and why? I know why. You tell us why. Why did it click so strongly for you?
So my husband and I are just big dorks when it comes to trying to, take information in. How can we continue to make our practice better? And so our practice is called Paladin Financial, and my husband Jeff and I are constantly listening to podcasts. And so there are, whether people believe this or not, there's not a ton of new ideas, but if we can just cut to the chase and borrow from other people, we get there faster sometimes. And so this was something that we had learned on another podcast. There's a group called the Perfect RIA. We listen to them. They have fantastic ideas and they have mastered this. And so we have pretty much just been students of what they have done and applied it to our organization. And Rob, you ask where it's comes from. I feel like we live in mad chaos sometimes, running the organization, wearing multiple hats. We have young kids still. Our kids are 10 and 6 right now. And so we needed something to bring some organization to what we have going on. And so I think we're close to 600, 700 clients at this point. We have 6 advisors in the office and we have between 12 and 14 employees, kind of depending on the time of year. And so with that, as Rob had kind of give us a little foreshadowing, consistency is such a big piece and we needed structure in our organization. And so it really somewhat stemmed from what we personally needed. And I think are going to get into more detail on this. But when we sit down and we look at the year to come and we start the planning process, you have to start somewhere, and getting your calendar laid out. It allowed us to bring that organization that we were looking for. And so it impacts us personally and professionally, and then hopefully gives our team a pretty good idea and our clients a pretty good idea of what they can expect from us over and over. So we needed it. That's the real answer, is we needed it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we've been doing this for over 20 years, and that's the thing that I see time and time again, is that I believe every firm needs it. And just to give you a little idea in the background is, I could tell which firms are implementing a surge into their practice and those that aren't. It's primarily those that the illustration is very last minute, and it's a frustration of, I need this right now. Why can't you get this for me right now? As opposed to the firm that had requested it 72 hours previous to the appointment and they're ready to rock and roll. Just one brief, easy example there. Many others I could go through. But then also, the thing that I see is, for those practices that desperately need this, the response is, I'm too busy to implement something new. And it's like, yeah, exactly. That's why you need this. That's precisely why you need this. So why is Surge actually a time saver in the long run?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just add to that, Rob, what you said there. The quote, uh, "The teacher presents itself when the student is ready." Oftentimes, people don't take action until there is a need for it, and it really hits home. And so that was us. But I hope for those that are listening that you can take a moment to stop and think, "Is this me?" And I don't even realize it. We have in the last really the last 2.5 years, it was a situation where we were standing in front of the computer still at midnight. We were just running so heavy and so hard that we weren't enjoying life. And I think that a lot of people go into business so that they can structure their schedule, do the things that are important to them, and create a balance. And we weren't there. I mean, we're still early in our careers here. We started the business in 2017. But if you just rewind to, it was beginning of 2023, we were still in that mode and we weren't having the fun that we were hoping for. And so we had to stop and breathe and take a step back and say, what can we do differently? And we had heard the concept and we had kind of implemented it. And what I mean when you say we kind of implemented it, well, one thing it's important is we don't let somebody, our existing clients, leave the office without setting their next appointment. And so that means oftentimes they're setting it a year out. And so that's somewhat of the foundation. But when you walked in, we could be running first appointments, we could be running second appointments, we could be running annual reviews, and you get scattered. Like you don't have some of that. You have to jump all over and you feel like you're inefficient when you're in that mindset. So the purpose behind surge meetings, and you, like we said, mentioned it, but the consistency that it provides, but it increases our efficiency. So when you are focused on one thing, you can move so much faster and you're just doing things, on autopilot. And I'll give an example quickly of that. We may come back to this, but as an example, the paraplanner in our organization that's helping prep a lot of our appointments, he actually, we do 3 or 4 different things on repeat in an annual review. And so one of those is the written plan, one of those is the numeric plan, one of those is topics that they want to bring up, and other ones are topics we want to bring up. And so what he does is he goes through for the week and he gets all the written plans done. So his brain is on written plan, written plan, written plan, and you just get in a rhythm. Same concept with the numbers. You're going through and you're pulling all 20 appointments for the weeks. And sometimes that's, logging into an Allianz account, or you're pulling numbers from Orion, whatever it might be, but you're in there and you do it for 20 people at once versus log in, log out, log in, log out. And it seems silly, but if you do that across 20 to 25 people in a week, like that is inefficient. And so that's just an example of how systematizing something certainly helps focus your energy, and then great things happen, right? You increase your efficiency, but on top of the scheduling and improving that time management for us as advisors, that is an example of how you're doing it for others in the organization. And it goes all the way down to your client services team, who is, potentially prepping, or the person that is calling out and doing the reminder text messages or the reminder calls and so forth. And so it also, hopefully gives us an opportunity to consistently collect assets, and that's kind of the numbers side of it and how it impacts the organization. So they all weave together, but hopefully that gives you some insight of the why was strong enough from a personal and a professional perspective to take action.
Sure. Yeah, that's great stuff. So clearly, the aha moment was we're bouncing here and bouncing here. First appointment, second appointment, review, closing meeting, and you're sitting here like, man, I am so overwhelmed, and I don't know what my next step is. I don't know who I'm speaking with that next, meeting with next, and then we get into once we really discover the consistency part of it, meaning we're starting to actually put in real systems and processes. How that was such a huge, maybe even underrated because you didn't realize it at the time, growth lever for the business, right?
Absolutely. Just the efficiency and the opening up of time. And it forces other processes and procedures. And maybe, Rob, this is where you were going with it, but we had to get ourselves organized at a root level, meaning we had to implement the categorization of our clients. And so it wasn't just this singular surge concept. It expands and it gets us organized, forces organizations in lots of areas that were almost secondary when we started the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's actually dive into the structure here. We've gone through all the ideas and the concepts. Let's actually dive into the structure. So, obviously, Surge isn't just a good idea. It's a real system. You've clearly built it step by step within your firm. Let's talk about segmentation and
Yeah.
segmenting your client base. I believe you and your firm use an A through F category. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yep, absolutely, and that's something that Gradient had presented to us many years ago, and our first 5 years of the organization, we hadn't put it in place, and I think for whatever reason, it seems like a great idea, but we hadn't applied it for, you get busy. I don't know why we didn't do it, Rob, but we hadn't until, again, the opportunity presents itself and you have a demand. And so that's the first step, is we had to get in there and making sure that we could add that segmentation using that A through F concept. And so we base it off of assets that we have with our clients. That becomes how we segment them. And so the next piece of it, it's, once you get that categorization done, is how often do I want to talk to these individuals? So if they are an A client, Does that warrant 4 meetings a year? Does it warrant 2 meetings a year? And so that was the second piece of it. So get it categorized, then apply how frequently you interact with the individuals. And what it ends up happening is you have a number at the end of the day that I have to talk to, or I have to hold 100 or 120 meetings or whatever that might be. Well, that starts bringing things into reality when there's only, however many weeks a year, and you back that off when you're attending training events and you're having vacations and so forth. And so it really becomes a calendar time management activity when you get this started.
Mhm.
So I don't know if all of this is familiar to our listeners, but again, starting with segmentation and then figuring out how many people fit into that category and how many times you want to see it so that you see them so that you get that total number of appointments that you need to have that are annual review.
So can you give us just kind of a quick overview of like what does a A look like compared to a B?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this continues to change. And so this has to be a system that you actively manage. And so when you set your categories in place, and when we started, an A was anybody that had investable assets over 1 million, where B is somebody that is 700 to 1 million. And so you do those categorizations. And again, Gradient has is a great resource to give you that as a starting point. And then from there, you have to go through and look at all your clients and actually put them in the A's and the B's. Well, as they have inheritance or things change in their life, they retire, whatever it might be, you collect more from them. You have to be able to change that categorization. And so they move. That's the part that moves within your organization. But figuring it out what it is as a baseline, as a foundation, is where you start the surge process.
Right, right. Can you walk us through how you map out your calendar? Because you're currently mapping out 13 to 15 months in advance, right?
We are absolutely in such good timing as you release this podcast. We are already starting to look at the next year. And in
Mhm.
fact, it'll be 2 years out. So we're sitting in the fall of 2025 right now. And so in late September, October is when we start planning the calendar for 2026. But imagine when you walk in as the advisor, you walk in and the first week of surge is in January 2026. You have to be setting your calendar for 2027. So when the client is meeting with you January 2026, when they get ready to leave out to walk out the door, we say, let's go ahead and get you on the calendar for next year. Does January 2nd, 2027 at 10 a.m. work for you? So you already have to know when your surge meetings are, that far out. And sometimes that blows your mind, but we've been doing it for so long that our clients, they don't miss their appointments because it's on the calendar, they know, and it's just become routine at this point for them to always set their next annual review appointment.
Yeah, that definitely extremely powerful, right? Not only doing that during the review, but also more importantly that you have a system in place. You guys have a confirmation email, a text that goes out 1 week before, and I believe a call that goes out the day before the review. Correct?
Yeah, and what you're bringing up, Rob, is, people often object to not our clients, but when I've talked to other advisors, well, how can you really get them on the calendar for a year out?
Right.
They're going to cancel, blah, whatever it might be. They have their objections to that. And the reality is we don't run into that. So it gets on the calendar. They get an immediate confirmation. We use Calendly, and I don't know if you've spent any of your podcasts at this point talking about it. It has been a game changer for us. We use Calendly. So put it in the calendar using that, and we actually do it right in our appointments because it's so easy. We pull it up on the screen and just do it in front of them. We used to send them out to the receptionist. The receptionist might be greeting somebody else. They had to wait for a second. It's just streamlined and made us really efficient. So look at the calendar 12 months out, and it's within the weeks that we know are surge weeks, and we get that started. So they immediately get a confirmation that way. In that confirmation email, they have the ability if they need to change it. So it's also reduced the number of calls that come into us for making any changes. But then prior to, so about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of the surge meetings, they get a communication from us, And it's starting the process of uploading any documents, any topics that they want to talk with us about. So it gets them thinking ahead about how are they going to use the time with us efficiently. And then we start the reminder calls a week out, and they get a text message a week out, and then they get a call the day before. So
That's
we
awesome.
stick with them to make sure that they don't forget is really the spirit of it.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is that we're all professionals, right? And as the financial advisor industry continues to advance and evolve, we continue want to make sure that we are holding ourselves out there as the professional in our specific space. So when you take a look at, and I'll never forget this, when we first, going back to Henley, our daughter, when we first had her, and we had the pediatrician appointments, I was looking at my calendar. I said to my wife, like, all we're doing is going to the doctor for the next 6 months, it looks like. But that's how professionals are, right? Like when you when you're leaving the dentist office, they're hitting you up for your appointment for your next six
Yeah.
months, time and time again. Same thing with your annual visits with your doctor. Same exact thing. Before you're leaving, you're setting your appointment for the next year. So this is not something that's coming out of left field. And oh my gosh, how could we even think of doing something like this? This is how we operate as professionals, right?
Exactly, and it really does elevate your professionalism when you offer this type of systemization. Rob, I'm gonna back us up for just a second on the
Please.
calendar, if you don't mind. Sorry, I'm not trying to, get us too far off, but one of the things that has become really important is, when you're laying out your calendar, you have to get all the knowns on there, and our surge weeks are probably the second thing that we put on there. And what does that mean? So, honestly, we go through and we put all the kids' calendar stuff, like, weeks that they're gonna be off school, spring break, whatever it might be. We do that for the entire organization so that we are really respectful of balance with the people that are contributing their time to
Love
make our world work, within our organization. So everybody gets to put the spring breaks on there, vacations they might have, things that are in their life, and then we start doing our events around that. So surge weeks get on there, and then we do client appreciation, client education, and so our known things, and we just start layering them in. And then what ends up happening, Rob, is you see what's available and what's left for marketing and prospecting, and you have to be that efficient. And we put our gradient events on there when we know that we're going to be out of the organization for elite advisor forum or gradient gala or whatever it might be. You start looking at the days that you're gonna be in the office, and when you have availability, it gets skinny, and that's why you have to work so far ahead if you really wanna be efficient at your annual reviews and consistent, combined with still being a prospecting machine and making activity happen.
So one of the things that I heard, and I want to make sure that everyone catches this. Many of our podcast hosts and guests, rather guests that have hopped on with me, have been from the tactical coaching side, and many of those topics have been about staffing and junior advisors and things along those lines, and making sure that they feel valued and that they feel like they're a part of the firm. So when you are including them in your calendar and the firm's calendar and making sure that we are protecting their important dates, such as their kids' events and their vacations and things like that, right away you're making them feel so valued, making them feel like they are so much a part of the firm. That's how you have a firm that stays together. That's how you have a firm that really wants to work for one another and be a part of the team.
Um, it is horrible when you have transition and
Mhm.
people turnover. It
Yep.
it makes it so difficult on everybody, not just the owners, not just the advisors,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. It's just horrible. It
Yeah.
takes time, and it's expensive, and it's unnecessary, and so if we can all be recognizing where people are at and where they need to be spending their time, it's professional is one piece, but personal is the part that makes them tick, and so, it's important.
Because that's why we do it, right? That's why we
Yeah.
do these things. And so when we can recognize that they're not just an employee and they're not just someone here to help increase my revenue, but hey, you are a part of this. You are a part of what we're doing here. That's what makes the individual feel like they want to contribute and be a part of it.
Yeah,
Um,
they are precious commodities as the people that are making this all work.
100%. 100%. Give us a snapshot of what a typical surge day looks like for you, meaning all the way from the morning prep to when you close the laptop and you're finally ready to go to bed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it actually, we're going to expand that beyond the terminology day. It really is about a 2-week process of really pretty intense focus on prepping for these. So we run about 20, 18, 20, kind of in that ballpark appointments each surge week. And so that's a pretty intense, and that's for one advisor. And so that can be pretty intense. Just all depends on the number that you have in your book and so forth. But if that's kind of what our goal is within our organization, you're going to start that process way earlier. And so one thing going into that is you can't have the people that are prepping, and that may be you, or it could be a paraplanner or somebody else on the client services side. You can't have them maxed out that week or 2 weeks before because they need to be getting all of the details pulled together. So for us, we have a written plan and then also the numerics. So you are going through and you are pulling all statements, whether it's from the insurance side of things or Orion. You're prepping the written portion of it, and then you're making sure that you are up to speed. If there is a topic that we're going to cover, or if there's a new service that we have introduced, you have to make sure that you have got yourselves well equipped and you have all the pieces to introduce that as well. So it's about you can't pull the numbers too early, and so that's kind of one of the last pieces that we do the week before. But you're working about a week ahead is realistic, and then it's getting done in time for the advisor to review it the Thursday, Friday, Monday of the week that you before you're going to start your search. And it's exhausting when you go from one meeting to the next to the next. You don't plan things in the evening, don't plan things even honestly that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have to recoup when you're going through 20 meetings like that back to back to back to back.
Sure. Yeah. And but once again, you want to talk about effectiveness alongside that consistency. Um, w- what we're getting ready to dive into right now is the numbers part of it. That the numbers are proving why this is vital and how you are able to grow your firm at such a fast pace, but more importantly, as I said at the beginning of this, to where you're not at the point. And I know you said you get exhausted at the end of that, but it's all with a focus, and there's a reason for it, and that reason is so you're not overwhelmed with the business. So the
Yeah.
business is not controlling you; you are controlling the business, and that's what we're talking about. So let's dive into the numbers then. Let's get into the real exciting part of it. You guys have had some crazy numbers, and the numbers really tell the story. So, for example, July surge, I think it was 36 households in 12 days, and there was 2.3 million in 60 days. Am I in the right
Yeah.
path?
I'll tell you a little bit about our philosophy, to set that up. So
Great.
our goal from, like, a holistic financial planning is we're trying to collect all the assets up front. We hold our licenses, on the insurance side, on the AUM, and then we also have our securities licenses. And so, we really, really wanna make sure that if we are going to offer holistic financial planning, you have to know what is going on with all aspects of their financial picture. Does that mean that we're perfect? Absolutely not, Rob. We know that sometimes that just doesn't work like that. So we like to believe that we've collected all of the assets, or we at least know where all of the assets are, which, if you look at that, well, then there's probably not a lot left to do when you meet with them on an annual basis. But the reality is, everything changes, right? Nothing stays the same. And so there's inheritance, there's job changes, there's things that are going on. And, especially with our top clients, we're seeing them multiple times a year. And so we have found pretty consistently, and we've been doing this, we're now ending our third year, we're in our third year of this, that we are collecting, somewhere 2, 3 million, 1.7 to 3 million, pretty much every time we run a search. And so that's pretty good. We know that we're going to get a good hit every time that we come. And honestly, I mean, that's our perspective, that's our lingo. But the reality is, we're making sure that we are not missing what's going on in their world, and that we are not letting big gaps of money sit in some bank account or something like that, earning nothing. So we're staying with them, we're proactive, and we're doing the best that we can to be very efficient, and maximize their opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, obviously those numbers speak for themselves with the power of the system. Beyond the numbers, Nikki, tell us what other benefits do you and your team feel? I'm sure less stress, a smoother flow, a better client experience. I'm sure beyond that.
Um, One of the things that Jeff and I have subscribed to is the concept that strategic Coach Dan Sullivan out of Chicago has put out there. And it goes back to you have to be, you have to spend time, working in your business. And that's the concept of surge is you are in it, you are on, those are your days where you are like all in it, right? But you have to allow other days in your life to make sure one, you're recuperating, that you have the energy back in you to whether it's hit this strong or something else. And those are called free days. And then days that you're prepping. And so that this concept has allowed us to run that structure as well, which means we are actually having time to think about how we want our business to grow. How can we work in the business? And so, again, we've already talked pretty exhaustively about the concept of using your calendar and the time management, but it allows us to have those days that we need free to make sure that we get our energy back as owners of the organizations and visionaries and be able to grow the business because we can apply that because we've structured our appointments correctly. Does that concept make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is that I know that there are some advisors out there listening right now that are thinking, "Man, this all sounds great, but I don't think I could pull this off." What would you say to those individuals?
Do one thing, just take one step that might move the needle. And if it is just when you end an annual review and you get the next one booked for next year, it's one less thing that you have to do. And I'll use a real life example. So we are, now that we're 8 years in, almost 9 years in on the financial practice, there's always room for opportunity, but we're pretty well oiled on our systems. We started the Medicare practice 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. This will be our second AEP. Guess what I didn't do? I did not set an annual review after AEP last year. Why not? So here I am. I'm sitting here on September and we can start having conversations in October. Now I have a list of 60 people that I have to go back and call to get them on my calendar.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? So once you know and can see what we can do on the financial side, why aren't we applying it everywhere? And so I would say at least get those appointments scheduled when they walk out your door so you don't have to scramble to get something done. And people's calendars get busy, really
Yeah.
busy. And
Yeah.
then it takes you about 3 years to get on this cycle, especially if you are doing that where you're setting them out. If you're not, then you can just start getting everybody put into the weeks that you want them in, and you don't already have a bunch of appointments scheduled that have to move around or, figure out. So take action. That's the key to everything, right? You just take one step and it's amazing how much energy you get from that step, and then you move to the next.
That's exactly right. So let's talk a little bit more about our tactical coaching side of things and how our team actually helps the advisors not just understand surge, but actually implement and sustain it. How could we help there?
I'm going to take a step back just a tiny bit for giving the concept behind tactical coaching.
Great.
Rob, you are almost a unicorn and unique in the level of knowledge that you have as it relates to product, marketing, strategy. Like, not everybody comes with that level of knowledge that you have. And so huge kudos to you. But as a FSP, as a financial professional out in the marketplace and working in the field, I don't expect you to know everything. You cannot solve everything that I need. But what I do hope that you know is I hope that you know my goals, because there's a pretty good chance I'm moving and thinking about my clients that I don't recognize what Gradient has to offer. What I hope through the tactical coaching program is that between you who knows product and yes, you may have a lot more knowledge, but not everybody does, that you can be my product person, but there's somebody else supporting you that knows my goals. And so it's almost just layering on what you already bring to the table and making sure somebody else is backing you up so that they know who I am, what I'm going for, and what I'm trying to accomplish this year. So that you can match up all of the services. And a lot of them come from Gradient, but from time to time, I might have to reach outside of that. But you can give me, because you're talking to 100 and 200 other, financial professionals, you're living it, and you can give me a quick hit of, hey, have you thought about this? Have you used this vendor, and so forth. And so it's just honestly, I think the tactical coaching team just adds on a layer of Rob can't be everything to all people. So let's make sure that we have backup, and we are really looking at somebody's operations of their organization. And we are filling those spots along the way with the right people and the right resources. So Rob can be really a product expertise and show up with the information when that's most applicable.
I love it. That's great. Thank you very much for that. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us for today. I can't believe how fast these go. And definitely being able to pull back the curtain and show us exactly not only how search meetings work, but how they transformed your practice and how they could transform others. Do you have any last minute thoughts before I wrap us up?
I would just say thank you to Rob and what he's doing and making this type of information available to all of us, and when we need it with the podcast style. Couldn't be more grateful for that. And same thing with Gradient, just all of the resources. It is not about product at Gradient. It is so much more about the operations and running of an organization. And so if that's where you're at, and that's something that you feel like you could really use the resources, like, call Rob. Make sure that you're getting in partnership with Gradient, because I don't know that there's many others that do it better than this crew. So thank you, Rob, for making this available.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And the thing is, what I love the most about this conversation, it wasn't about being efficient just to be efficient. It's about building consistency, creating capacity, serving, most importantly, serving our clients at a higher level, while at the same time making sure you're able to focus on your time and making sure that you are able to run the business as the business should be run, not the business running you. And the thing is, I want to make sure that everyone that is listening is clear on that the biggest takeaway today is that you should have heard is that you're not going to figure this out alone. You don't have to figure it out alone. Let us do the heavy lifting for you. Let us take over and really show you how to do this. That's exactly what our tactical coaching team was built for. Exactly everything we talked about today. And Surge is definitely a great deal a part of our coaching models. And once again, we don't just explain it. We help you implement it. More importantly, we make it stick, and that means giving you tools. So review checklists, call scripts, emails, text templates, confirmation workflows, everything that not only that you need, but also that your team needs to be able to deliver and implement this so it's a seamless experience for you and your clients. And as always, if you want to dive deeper, head out to our website, which is simply evolvewithgradient.com/ace team. And while you're at it, always be sure to go ahead and like, subscribe, share the podcast, share it so other advisors can benefit from these strategies. Because, quite frankly, all of this is not only to make sure that you have a successful practice, but also to make sure that we're helping and protecting your communities as well. And before we go, I just want to say this: thank you, thank you to each and every single one of the financial advisors out there listening for serving your communities, for protecting your clients' assets, and quite frankly, for doing the work that doesn't always go recognized. Thank you. You don't get thanked enough. I know it, and I want to be the first one to possibly tell you today. And so this is Unfiltered and Unstoppable, real strategies for real advisors. We will see you on the next episode. Thanks so much again, Nikki.
Thanks, Rob.